This video is powered by the pros at Paschal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPaschal.com.
It's wild to try to keep track of everything going on in the transfer portal because there are a lot of players that have put their name in there this morning, and none of them are any surprises from Arkansas. Maybe there's some prizes from some other schools, and we got Connor O'Gara with us from Saturday Down South. I would usually say you're going to make sense of all of this, Connor, but good luck making sense of the transfer portal today.
No, there's no way to make sense of it. It is just a fluid mess that, look, it gets even more messed up by some of these early draft declarations, and we're having to keep track of which coaches are going where, and that's all happening right now as well. So you can miss a lot of things, and if you are of the impression that a bowl game is going to look a certain way, I would caution anybody of that mindset if you're trying to put bets in or something like that, or whatever the case may be. I know everybody's got different interests in these games. This entire bowl season looks like it's very much in flux as we speak, and Arkansas actually might be in one of the more favorable spots with being able to have KJ and Rocket playing in this bowl game as of this interview. I check again in like 10 minutes, and I guess we'll wait and see kind of how this plays out.
Yeah, but I mean, right now Arkansas is intact. Sam Pittman told us to expect to have some, a crazy week. It didn't materialize last week. This morning hasn't been wild at all for Arkansas. But I did see, as far as like the Florida Gators are concerned, who the heck is going to play quarterback in the Vegas Bowl? Jalen Kitna rightfully kicked off the team. He's got other things to worry about, which includes his freedom. And not looking at naked pictures of little girls. Anthony Richardson has declared for the NFL draft. Is he? I don't think that's a quarterback is ready for the NFL. Do they even have a quarterback left?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I don't know what the status is on Jack Miller, who transferred from Ohio State but didn't play it down this year because he broke his thumb. He was kind of like the emergency guy for a little bit there, but their quarterback depth is just gone. And I don't know if they're going to end up having to play a true freshman who hasn't played a down of football yet. But, man, I mean, that's just a disastrous situation. And a lot of these teams, I think, are going to be going through similar situations. Like, if Will Levis doesn't play in the Music City Bowl against Iowa, like Iowa's top two quarterbacks, the only two quarterbacks who have played it down for Iowa, which, again, that's like the worst passing attack in America, so keep that in mind. They're not even going to be able to play because one of them's in the portal, one of them's hurt. We're going to see a lot of situations like this with really, really bad quarterback situations in bowl games. Even the ones that feel good and kind of exciting, you look at the Orange Bowl, right? We're going to get Cade Klubnik, the Clemson true freshman who came into the ACC championship and was awesome and was the 5-star that everybody's saying Dabo needs to put him in. He's going to be facing Joe Milton, not Hendon Hooker. So, I mean, take these bowl games for kind of what they are and appreciate the ones that actually have some familiar faces and appreciate the ones that actually give us some good entertainment.
Yeah, after the game Saturday, which I thought, you started off Friday with the Utah-USC game, and then the Kansas State-TCU game was pretty cool. Do you think that everybody got it right, that the Final Four teams are the four best teams in college football?
Yeah, I think the selection committee absolutely got it right, and I think they gave it to the four most deserving teams. I think they got the seeds right. If they had put Alabama in, it would have spat in the face on everything that they've tried to build in terms of credibility for the previous 8 years of this system. And if they had just said, you know what, Alabama would be favored to beat TCU at a neutral site, then why play the games? Why play the games? Because at no point is Alabama ever going to be an underdog to TCU. That's reality. Like, if Alabama went 4-8 this year, and if TCU went 12-0, you'd probably still be like, well, Alabama's got it's probably
right.
the favorite. So what's the point of even doing that? So yeah, I thought they got it right. I didn't think Ohio State was going to move up to 3 because they were sitting at home after they got smacked by their rival at home. So I thought that it was perfectly fair to not necessarily penalize TCU for losing to a really good Kansas State team, neutral site game that went to overtime. And I think that we're going to have a couple of great matchups. And I'm excited to see Georgia, Ohio State, a matchup that we haven't seen before in the playoff and should make for a really interesting postseason.
I think it was really odd listening to Nick Saban try to sell Alabama to the public. With all, I hate all the idea of, metrics and would we be favored and all of those things. I mean, I understand that even Boo Corrigan talked about how close Ohio State and Alabama might have been in the conversation, that they want to let everybody that's on the committee have their opinion and voice the opinion. And why you have them on the committee, you might as well. It was an easy choice. It is an easy choice. All you got to look at is the record. The record speaks for itself, doesn't it? I mean, it's like Mike Tomlin says, you are what your record says you are.
If this were a Bama team that was winning all these games by 28 points, I would have said, okay, there's a legitimate case to be made here. But that wasn't the case at all. Alabama played in 9 Power 5 games this year. 5 of them were decided in the final minute. All right, this is a team that didn't have quality wins. Their best win was what? At Texas, when Texas lost their starting quarterback, Quinn Ewers, in the first quarter, and Alabama won with a field goal with 10 seconds left. Like, that was their best win of the year. Even TCU did better in Austin against a Texas team that had Quinn Ewers, and they won that game by 7. So even the mutual opponent thing didn't favor Alabama. I mean, Alabama had the loss to Tennessee as well, which Tennessee not being ranked over Alabama, I thought that was silly. And if we're considering the Tennessee roster that doesn't have Hendon Hooker, I think that's really stupid, because then you would have to use it on the other side and say, well, what if Ohio State gets Jackson Smith and Jigba back? Are they all of a sudden like a 2-seed or a 3-seed? No, nobody would say that. So, yeah, I think the selection committee ultimately got it right. I never bought any notion that Alabama was going to make the 4-team field and that this Alabama team was going to be the first ever 2-loss team to make the playoff. It didn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, we'll have all holiday seasons to have a bowl pick 'em and talk about all these bowls. I want to get your thoughts on Deion Sanders. I guess the biggest splash so far going to Colorado. How do you like that fit? And you think it's a good move for Colorado?
Great move for Colorado. Great move. I mean, look, a lot of people are going to look at this situation and say, "Oh, it's not going to work. Deion is too blunt. What worked for him at Jackson State won't necessarily work at the Power 5 level." And there are probably going to be some teaching moments, and I think that's going to be the case. That's going to be the case no matter what, because he's still very green as a football coach, and he's got a lot of experience around kids these age, obviously with his kids, and then he used to work at the Under Armour All-America camps. I used to see him in Orlando every year there, and you're kind of like, all right, this guy gets it. He fully understands it, but man, I mean, you see the opening press conference and you see the first meeting that he has with his team, and he's like, I'm bringing my own luggage. I've got Louis. He's just like, man, this
he is kind of in your
wired.
face. Yeah, he's wired different, huh?
I mean, it's going to be different. And but that's kind of, if you're a program that's in the situation that Colorado is, that's what you need. In this day and age, though, you can overhaul a roster pretty quickly if you're at the Power 5 level, and that's what he's going to try and do to his advantage. And you know what? Who knows? Maybe Colorado just put itself at the forefront of the national conversation for as long as Deion is going to be in Boulder.
Well, and you're right. You can turn programs around a lot quicker because of the portal. So with that thought, there's added pressure on new coaches. Like, you still get that honeymoon first year. But I feel like after that, you're expected to show return on investment pretty quickly. And I'm not just saying, you go from 1 win to 3 wins 1 year, 6 wins the next year, and all of that. Like, I think you're expected to contend,
make a bowl game,
and turn a program around, because you're seeing it happen.
Well, yeah, look what Brian Kelly just did. Year 1 with the transfer portal. They had 39 scholarship players in their bowl game last year, and he takes over a roster that, man, we're asking all these questions about and saying, oh, yeah, and obviously he had his fair share of Arkansas involvement with the transfers that he settled on. But this was a situation that could have gone in a variety of ways. We kind of saw it play out over the course of LSU season, but to beat Alabama year 1 with a roster that had a very significant transfer portal representation, yeah, you are seeing it all over the place. And at a place like Florida with Billy Napier now, they have a lot of questions to be able to answer, and mainly at quarterback and what they're going to do there, probably going to the transfer portal and trying to figure out what that roster is going to look like. It's going to look very different next year. And you're expected all of a sudden, especially at these big time places, hey, there are no excuses. Go out and get you some. Go out and get you some guys that have been in a Power 5 strength program for 3 years or something like that. You can do that in this day and age. And coaches like Dabo who refuse to partake in that, they're only hurting their teams by pretending like this isn't the new age of college football.
And go ahead, Phil.
I was just going to say, sooner or later, like, Dabo's got to give into this, right? I mean, you can only be hard-headed about something that everybody else is utilizing for so long. Like he is hard-headed, but you got to be able to adjust, you know? And I can't imagine he's going to go that much longer without bringing in a transfer. He just lost a quarterback to the portal.
It's silly. It's so silly. And, like, I'm a big believer in adapt or die. That's something that in this day and age feels so important. And there are people who can say, well, you don't need the transfer portal. Look what Kirby just did. All right, if you can develop talent like Kirby, go ahead. Good luck. I applaud you. If you think you can get away and do what he's doing and bring in the 5-star high school talent that he is, then fine. You don't have to use the transfer portal. I wish you the best of luck. But Dabo's not doing that. He's not doing that. And that's the issue. And if you're not using the transfer portal to be able to fill holes with your roster, man, I just think you're doing a team a massive disservice.
Phil, what was the guy's name, the new strength guy that we got? Because we were speaking of that, I was going to see if Connor, what you knew about him and his time that he was at Georgia with Sam Pittman.
Max Hoggard, was that his name? I can't remember. I didn't write it down. But it was the former strength. He worked with Pittman at Georgia, and then at Louisville, he was the head strength and conditioning coach. This is the only change, by the way, on the Arkansas coaching staff. I think folks might have expected there might be another change or two, but as of right now, you know, Barry Odom is making recruiting trips. Kendall Briles is doing the same thing, and Connor, the only changeover is the entire strength and conditioning staff, not just the head coach for strength and conditioning. I mean, the entire department.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think with guys like Shane Beamer and Sam Pittman, who came in with relatively similar backgrounds as guys that weren't necessarily coordinators, and they got their first head coaching opportunities at Power 5 places in the SEC. I think the question with them was always going to be, how do they handle these tough decisions? And Sam Pittman's essentially doubling down. That was considered such a strength coming into year 3, was feeling like you had your top 2 assistant hires nailed, and now feeling like there are questions about both of them and whether or not they're going to maximize your team's potential. It puts him in a tough spot, and he is essentially saying, no, I believe in these guys, and I'm willing to stand up for them if there are not changes to be made. I never say the coaching carousel is done spinning. I mean, this thing just keeps going around and around, and we'll wait and see how this plays out because there's still jobs to be filled, and we can still see some movement. We know that's always the case, even in the early part of December. But, yeah, it does feel like for now at least, Sam Pittman is willing to stand by his top 2 assistants.
How should the Arkansas fans feel that knowing that we probably have one of the best quarterbacks coming back in the conference, and I think it's a good move. I think he can be a first team all conference SEC in KJ. Do you think that helps us maybe go out and get one of those receivers that because if you're a receiver want to go to the next level, wouldn't you want to come play with KJ where you know you're going to throw it all over the park?
You guys, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. I tweeted it the other day. I think KJ has already established himself as the best returning quarterback in the SEC. I think he's going to be worthy of that praise coming into the year. We'll wait and see
how
things play out with the portal. Like, he really does feel like he's going to be on that level. And you bring up a great point, too, with trying to get those portal receivers. That is something that guys really pay attention to. That is a pivotal thing that, you know, guys don't want to go to a place where they feel like, you know what, they have, you know, this guy who got maybe a couple reps as a true freshman, but there's not really a whole lot of film. When receivers go on those visits, and I remember talking to Wan'Dale Robinson about this, they go on those visits and they watch these quarterbacks in this system, and they try and see, all right, how am I going to be used? What's my exact role going to be? And knowing that KJ is coming back and having the year that he did, which even though he was banged up and I thought he had some frustrating moments, I still thought he showed he is one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I think that's going to be monumental for them as they try and sell a pitch to these potential transfer portal receivers.
Football is back, and BetOnline remains your number one source for all your football betting needs this season. You'll find the latest odds, matchup info, player news, and game trends. And as your continued source for all sports wagering info, BetOnline features live betting, free contests, live scores, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports and events like MLB, MMA, tennis, boxing, and even golf. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 100% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. Bet online, where the game starts.